Hello everyone. You're welcome back to Immigrant Voices and Victories. On Immigrant Voices and Victories, we celebrate the journeys of different immigrants who have crossed the oceans, faced challenges, and they're successful in their professional career, whether they've transitioned as a student, they've come to the UK as a dependent. We have loads of guests. And today, we are here with Dr. Sirina. We went to the same university, at the University of Nottingham, and she always looked after us. And yeah, she's my sister from Ghana. And so, yeah, we have her on here today to tell us about her personal journey. Hello, Doc. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for inviting me, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah, it's a wonderful, feeling always to share with others your little experiences.
Thank you so much. So here we like to make our guests comfortable. So we're going to have some icebreakers. And yeah, so I have question 1 to 43. So choose a number.
Okay, let's pick 27.
What do you value most in a friendship?
Trust.
Wow, that came so quick.
Friendship, exactly. Yeah, because I believe that once there's trust, everything else can be built upon it. So that's my most valuable asset in a friendship or any other relationship for that matter. Trust.
Wow. Awesome. That was a quick one. Let's go for the last one then, since we're getting quick answers.
21.
21. Wow, she's going for another odd number. Where did you grow up and what was it like? I love this one.
Oh, lovely. I grew up in a city called Kumasi. So Kumasi is the second largest city in Ghana next to Accra. And yeah, it was very lovely because, I was in a particular area that they call Zongo. So mainly made up of Muslims and Hausa-speaking people. It was really lovely growing up, really. But yeah, that was it. In Kumasi, in Ghana. That's the second largest city in Ghana, next to Accra.
She was the first Hausa-speaking person I ever met from Ghana. The first time she was like, Kina Jim Hausa. I was like, yeah, Jim Hausa. And then we started. I was like, Kai. What's up with Hausa? Ghana.
Yeah, Hausa. So if you come to the south, in Kumasi in particular, it's either Chi, that's for the Ashantis, or Hausa for the non-Ashantis. So yeah, we speak Hausa a lot. Even though the accent of the Hausa in Ghana is a little bit different from the Nigerian accent, but of course we understand each other when we speak it.
Yes. I notice that every time. We always talk in Hausa, trust me. But we just put English aside. You are lucky we're not doing this interview in Hausa. You're still not subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of these wonderful personal journeys from our wonderful guests. So, Doc, can you briefly introduce yourself to us, please?
Right. I'm Sirina Muntaka. So I'm a scientist with a specialty in immunology and infection. I'm currently working as a lecturer in immunology and infection. My specialty is microbiology and immunology. So I have the specialty in both. I'm currently lecturing in immunology and infection in UCLan, that's University of Central Lancashire Medical School. Yeah, helping to train future global physicians. Yeah, that's just me.
Awesome.
Of course, I've got my personal hustle on the side as an entrepreneur, but yeah, that's me.
Yeah, she's also a mother. So wow, we're going to get a lot of information today.
Yeah,
so
what that part, mother of 3 and a wife.
We just wanted to ask, what factors led to your decision to move to the UK?
Quite interesting for that one, because my move to the UK was kind of a serendipity. It was never planned at all. I first of all came here as a student in 2011 to do my master's in microbiology and immunology. And then after my master's, I was always rushing back home because family was home, my work was home, so everything was home. When I say home, I mean back in Ghana. So I went back to Ghana after my master's straight away to my job. And before I went back, though, my supervisor was quite keen for me to do a PhD with her after the master's. And one of my main objection was that I wasn't going to do a PhD without a full sponsorship, because my master's was partially funded, and with the struggles that I had to go through, as, getting half of the fees and all the maintenance, my main thing was I'm not going to do a PhD unless it comes with a full sponsorship. So even though my then supervisor was very keen, I wasn't so keen because I wasn't ready for a second struggle unless there was a full sponsorship. So yeah, I went back home, but before I went, she had that in mind, and so we were preparing for that. And a friend of a friend had Slumberger scholarship, so he mentioned it to me, and then we started looking at that. Later on, my supervisor also sent it, and then we started looking at it. So we both worked towards how to do the application. We came up with the project proposal and everything. So fortunately, I got the scholarship. So therefore, I had to come back to UK. So I came back in 2013 for my PhD, and then finished in 2017. Yeah, December 2017, I graduated. And 4 days after, I actually submitted my thesis in June. And 4 days after, straight back again, I was back in Ghana because I never planned to stay here at all. I never planned. That's why I said it's serendipity. So I was back in Ghana again, but unfortunately, things didn't go as I planned. So, yeah, I was waiting on the government for clearance so that I'll be recruited fully. But of course, I was still working as a part-time lecturer in University for Development Studies in Tamale, in Ghana. So while waiting for the clearance for the full employment, the permanent employment, my supervisor here also needed somebody to complete the project I started so we could have a publication out of it. So, and she had 5 months funding. So she was asking if I could help, because if she brought in a new person, the person had to do all the trainings that I had done for 4 years, which they don't have funding for. So it was, and then if I came, my advantage was going to be the fact that I would get a publication out of the work I had already started. So therefore I was like, okay, during the time that I was going to wait until the government gets me a clearance for a permanent job, why don't I just come back and do the 5 months? So I came back to do 5 months, and I'm still here. That's it.
Yeah, 5 months has gone to many years.
That's it.
Wow, wow, that's so good. Yeah. So, what were there specific challenges you faced back then while adapting to the UK, actually?
Yeah, of course. When I came initially, that's in 2011 to do my master's, the first challenge was the accent. Oh my goodness. We had, the accent was really, really so challenging. We had the Scottish, I think, is he a bench supervisor or lecturer? But oh my God, he will come and rattle from A to Z, and I couldn't hear a single word. So I will be like, oh my goodness, what am I doing in this class? It was really bad. So I really struggle with some of the accents. Some of them actually speak like normal. If you go back in Ghana or in Nigeria, we have only 2 accents, either the broken English, yes, or the pidgin English, or the normal English, and we could all understand each other. But here, different regions, people from different regions of United Kingdom have so different accents, and it was, I know. So it was a very, very big challenge. And food, oh my goodness. It took me over 5 years to start eating fries as a normal dish. It's so tasteless. I was like, what's this? When over there in Ghana, we've got this sweet yam and potatoes. And the other challenge was, of course, financially. But alhamdulillah, we pushed through. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, we all went through that. So walking back to back and all that. So how were you able to adapt to this now that you've been here for ages now?
Exactly. So I think in terms of the accent, I started with YouTube videos, watching YouTube videos like as a backup after the class, so then I could understand and see pictorially what was happening. And then also, I mean, interacting with people. When they speak and I don't understand, I wasn't shy at all. I will ask again, you come again so that I can understand you, because I didn't get that. So I wasn't shy to ask for repetitions. And then, of course, if I didn't get anything at all, I would do my own research. In terms of the financial challenges, I was working part-time, as well as getting some financial support from my family back home to be able to manage the two. And yeah, having friends, networking was also very important, because at least if you network and you get to know people who are here already, they'll be able to guide you as to what you needed to do. So I was very fortunate. A friend came to visit me from London, and she had a friend in Nottingham. And therefore, her friend became my friend as well. So, which was also quite very useful.
Awesome. Yeah, we actually met through network as well, through the Okechukwu, actually, you know.
Exactly.
That's how, yeah, and Bumi, that's how I met you.
Party, isn't it?
Yeah. That's how I met you. And yeah, wonderful. I know you've talked about, you know, how you learned about the Slumberger scholarship. So how can people apply for this scholarship, and what really motivated you? So, because I know this scholarship is specific for women, I remember.
Yeah. So with the Slumberger scholarship, as I mentioned earlier, so a friend of mine who had a friend who had that scholarship was the one who first introduced it to me, and then my supervisor also sent it to me later. So it's specifically for women only, unfortunately. So I'm sorry, guys. So it's for women only. So if you're a woman and they've got their criteria on their website. If you go to slumberger.com, you will see it, and you see all the newsletters that they give for every entry. Usually it will be a year ahead of your start date, and you should already have the school you want to go to. If you already have a proposal in place and you have an admission, even better. And you should be, I mean, there are several criteria that you have to take. And once you take those criteria, then you can zoom into submitting your application. So you can just go to slumberger.com, go to their website, you see all the criteria. But the first criteria is you must be a woman, okay? So if you're not a woman, of course you can look at it well, maybe for your sisters, your friends, or your wives, or your partners, or whoever, but specifically for women. Yeah, as far as
Awesome. That's so good. I'm going to drop a link to Slumberger scholarships in the description section. So if you're interested, this is a good time to start preparing, because you always have to prepare a year before, you know, you start the session for whatever course you're interested in. Is it for masters and PhD, or just for PhDs?
It's mainly for PhDs, because it's for research, program. So that will be for PhD mainly. Yeah. Okay. Unless you've got, it's PhD and postdoc mainly. Yeah. Unless maybe you've got a striking MRes, Masters of Research, I'm not sure, but definitely for PhD and postdoc. Yeah.
Wow, awesome. Were there any challenges you faced being a Slumberger scholar? I don't think you did, because, man, you guys are swimming in money.
Really? It's interesting. There are challenges for everything. There are pros and cons. The big pros is that, to be honest with you, without Slumberger, I wouldn't be here. So I'm very grateful to that scholarship, and to everybody behind that scholarship, and to my supervisors, to everyone that supported my family and all. However, the scholarship is not like, if your PhD is for 3 years or 4 years, the scholarship doesn't come as a 3-year scholarship or 4-year scholarship. It comes as a 1-year scholarship. So you will have to apply every year for renewal.
To renew.
Exactly. And the renewal is based on your progress and several other things that the criteria that you still must qualify for. So that is the challenge. And one of the criteria that is not in our hands was the fact that the country list, the list of eligible countries, changes year on year. So there was a friend, for instance, whose country was part of it and she had it. And then during subsequent years, her country was not part of the list anymore. So this person was left in the middle of the road. So that year, you're not sure whether your country will be part of it in the next year. And however, if your country is part of it and you are progressing very well, your progress is also very important. Your progress in terms of your research with your current university. If you're progressing well, that's fine. If you're not progressing well, that is going to be a hindrance as well. There are several factors that you still have to fulfill, basically. So you kind of renew year on year. If you still fulfill all those criteria, though, then you still stand over 90% chance of getting the renewal, which means you are ahead of a new application. Because if they started the journey with you and you're doing well, why not? So your chances of getting a renewal is high. But that fear and that struggle of will I still
the uncertainty,
the criteria, uncertainty associated with it is really quite, I mean, something to deal with. So it was a challenge. Yeah.
Okay, I hear you, but when you get it, oh, you're blessed.
You're very blessed because it's a very great package. Your flight, even child care was included. When I had my child, I had some child care support.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful package. Yeah.
Yeah. So your teaching career, let's just dive into that now. So how did you get into lecturing? Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, I came back for the 5 months postdoc, which ended up being an additional 2 years. Then we had, after the 2 years, I think my husband was like, if you're going to stay for an additional 2 years, that makes it 2.5 years. Then you might perhaps just come grab your kids, because I was here alone while the kids were with him. And then he was, taking care of the kids and all back in Ghana. So I went for the kids and then they got here. So therefore, my priority now was like, I need a permanent job, because with kids around, they're going to be in school. And if you have a contract, which has a fixed term contract, at the end of the contract, what if you didn't get a renewal? So what happened next? What happens to the kids' school? How do you, you have to move them all over again. So then my priority became that I'm looking for a permanent job. So I started looking. And fortunately, I think then there was this flagship program with University of Central Lancashire and American University of the Caribbean, where they developed a new postgraduate program for people who wanted to become medical doctors. So they were recruiting. And then fortunately, I saw an advert which was that they were looking for a specialist in immunology and infection. And then I also saw an advert they were looking for somebody in embryology and histology, which my husband was. So I forwarded the advert to him. Yeah. And we both applied. Double blessing. So I applied from Nottingham. I was in Nottingham, and he applied while he was in Ghana. And we both got interviewed. I had my interview in person. He had his interview on Skype. And they didn't know we were related anyway. And we both got the appointment. And this was a permanent appointment. So it's like, that was how I just became a lecturer. So I had to move from my research only. And I was mainly in research, even though I was teaching a bit as well. So then I just moved to Euclid, and I moved to Preston, and I'm still there. Yeah, that's how.
Wow. 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 This is good. I think we should take time to, shout out to our wonderful dependents. Sometimes when we come to study, especially those of us that are women, our husbands they look after the kids, they do everything for us, and it's just so wonderful to have that support. And so if you're a dependent out there, we've been there, done that. So please keep supporting your wife, or if it's the other way around, keep supporting, because you never know, your double blessing, like Dr. Sirina, might just be somewhere waiting.
I always hear that behind the success of every man, there is a woman. But I haven't heard the opposite. But then, of course, behind the success of every woman, there is a man too.
Yes.
So I think it just works better when we support each other. Then we have a better family.
Yes. Yes. There you go. That's a marriage counsel right there. I told you. She's got it all.
Go on.
Wow, that's so good. So what's your teaching approach? What is teaching here? Because I know you taught in Ghana and now you're teaching in the UK. What do you think is the difference majorly?
Teaching here, I would say it's more interactive than back home, because back home we had very, very, even though it depends here too, it depends on where you are teaching. For instance, with mine, they are postgraduate students, so the student numbers are reasonably lower. In undergraduate, you can have 200 students in a class, but with the postgraduates, maybe maximum you have is around 30 students. So then there is that personal connection, and you get to know your students and your student know you. And then also during the teaching, it's a bit more interactive. You can really interact. Imagine interacting with 30 students versus 200 students. Not everybody will get to talk at the end of your 1 hour lecture.
I know.
So, exactly. So there's a bit more interaction here, and compared to back home where I had over 200 in a class. And then I think students here are more outspoken. They know they are free to voice their minds and still be fine. Back home, they are free to voice their mind as well, but the students have that kind of phobia to do that because they don't want to be on your bad books, basically.
They want to pass.
Exactly. They want to pass. They think that if they say anything that offends you might not pass them. And the interesting thing is that with me, there's nothing like your passing is not in my hand. What I can do is to teach you. It's up to you to grasp it. And the best part of it is that the exam is not even essay. It's multiple choice, which is marked by a machine. So it's either you pass or you pass.
I know.
Actually, that reminds me, a student asked me that I should just take them as my own sister and help them to pass. I said, of course, you are more than a sister to me, because your success is my success as my student. So the best I can do for you is I can give you extra tutorials, but of course, you're going to write the exam yourself. The machine is marking it. I'm not marking it. It's either you pass or you fail. And we see the results right after you finish. It's not in my hands. So yeah, it's quite more interactive here because of the lower numbers of students versus our high numbers of students back home.
Well, so if people wanted to get into lecturing from back home, either from Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, India, anywhere at all in the world, what should they be thinking about?
It's very possible. So our experience. It's always about experience. And I think when it comes to academia, it's one of the skilled worker jobs that you can easily get into that gives sponsorship, because we're always in demand. So you can be looking at jobs.co.ac or the individual university websites. If you're looking for individual university websites, you go and look for the kind of academic jobs that they've got. And interestingly, we are always in demand. If you've got the experience, regardless of where the experience is coming from. My husband never had any UK experience. All his experience was from Ghana. So if you've got the experience, then they will be more than happy to grab you. I think UK is, we all know about the brain drain, but come on, now here is home, so we can't say much.
Yes.
Yeah, it's home. But the thing is, to be honest with you, I personally was rushing to go back home every time, because my motivation for doing immunology, specializing in immunology, was the fact that back in my university where I did my undergraduate, we had only one female immunologist. So I always wanted to go back home because I thought we had just one female immunologist. What if anything happens to her? God forbid, but anything happens, there's life, there's death, there's sickness. Then what happens? So I was so keen to do immunology just so I could go back and, give back. You understand? But then, of course, you finish and you're demoralized. They tell you government doesn't have clearance to employ
you to get a job.
Do you understand?
I know.
You are in high demand somewhere where they're actually begging to have you. You understand? So that's what happens. Sometimes you just, go by the flow where the opportunity is. Of course, we always give back. And even now that I'm here, I'm still giving back we can still collaborate with colleagues back at home. And we're still giving back to Ghana as well, even though we are here. So we're giving back to both countries. So don't feel, if you have the need, just go for it. Yeah.
Wow.
If you don't feel like you're abandoning Ghana or you're abandoning Nigeria. You can always be here and still give back to Ghana.
Yes, and still collaborate. Yeah. What do you enjoy most about teaching?
It's quite fulfilling, knowing that you are impacting on the society, knowing that I'm helping to train future medical doctors. Yeah, because I know that regardless of how much we make, or regardless of what professions we are in, you can't guarantee that you wouldn't fall sick in one day or the other. So getting to know that I'm part of, building our future network or our future forces of physicians that will look after us really makes me feel fulfilled, and also helping these individuals achieve their own goals as well of becoming medical doctors makes me very fulfilled.
Wow, awesome. Awesome. So we go back to culture now. Are there any cultural background that you've consciously maintained while living in the UK?
Yeah, of course. I'm still having my veil on. I don't care.
Awesome.
You can see I still dress. To be honest with you, I feel like UK is very liberal. Of course, we've got some individuals who are quite racist, but of course, because race is a protected characteristic, they can't bring it openly to show that they are being racist. They can only do it in hiding. So I feel comfortable still having my hijab on, dressing as a Muslim, and feel free with it. I don't really mind at all. And another thing is, wherever you go, if it's a public space, they usually have a mosque around, so you can go and pray out when it's time for prayer without fear or any favor, which is quite great. So it's one great thing about the UK if you want to come to UK.
Wow, that's good. So yeah, the UK would always welcome all backgrounds, and you know, we're able to
all faith. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then people of all faith, yes. And yeah, you can always network with people. Wow, that's so good. Can you
I don't joke with my African food. I still eat my African food. We've got all the African shops that you can still have your African meals. You don't need to miss them at all, even though they're more expensive, but you don't need to miss them at all. You can still have your African meals while being in the UK. Yeah.
Wow, awesome. I don't want us to start talking about Ghana jollof, Nigerian jollof. This video might not end, so let's just leave that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so good. So now let's move to home ownership. So becoming a homeowner is quite a significant achievement. How did you navigate that?
Right. So becoming a homeowner in England as an immigrant is quite a bit more than just like if you were a UK citizen or having an indefinite leave. Reason being that you need a bigger deposit. However, it's very, very doable. First of all, just make sure that your credit score or your credit worthiness is very clean. So credit in UK here and other developed countries is like the air you breathe, yeah, or the water you drink is super duper important for your survival here if you want to really survive well. So if you've got a very good credit and you've got a regular source of income, what I mean by that is you've got a job, or even if you are self-employed, so that's why I said you've got a regular source of income, then, and you've got a bigger deposit, because as immigrant, as at that time, I needed 25% deposit, even though it was our own home. Meanwhile, if you were a citizen or you have indefinite, you can have as little as 5% deposit and you'll still be good to go. However, I think after living here for, if you've been in employment for over 2 to 3 years, then you can have some lenders who are happy to give you the mortgage at 15% deposit. So if you give 15% deposit, so they will give you 85% what we call LTV, loan to value, right? But then for starters, I needed to have 25% deposit. So then the bank was giving us 75% LTV. So it is very possible. However, make sure you've got a very clean credit score, you've got a big deposit, and you've got a regular source of income. So even if you got here today, yeah, and you've just started, you haven't been here for a year yet, because I see people saying, oh, you have to be here for 2 or 3 years before you can buy a house. That's not true. It depends on the lender you're going with, and it depends on how much deposit you've got. If you've been here for 2 to 3 years, then yes, you've got more chances, because the people, the category of lenders who will be happy to lend you increases. You've got more lenders at your disposal, okay? And you could also have a lower deposit and still get the mortgage. However, if you've been here for just a few months and you've got your big deposits, and you've got your clean slate, and I think another thing is because they would be looking at your credit history based on how long you've been here. So usually you need to have been here for about 2 years so they know your credit history. But if you've got a big deposit, some lenders will be more than happy to deal with you. So yeah,
wow.
Why not?
Wow. Of course. Wow. So with you being a Muslim, did you have an issue with having to pay? Because I know some Muslims talk about interest and all of that. Do you pay a more big deposit, or was it Islamic banking? How does it work?
So it's quite interesting, because Islamically, most Muslims would not. So there's this thing we call riba, and it's a very big topic you are bringing. I don't know if you want me to dive into it at all, or I don't want to dive into it, because it depends on who is hearing and who is understanding. So some Muslims will not even take mortgage at all, because they believe it's the interest that the bank is going to charge is riba. However, they are happy for a landlord to take a mortgage and be paying the bank while they live in the house, pay the landlord the rent, and the landlord will use the money to pay the bank and keep his profit. Interested?
Oh, wow. I've never had that perspective.
Exactly, which is it's fine. It's our belief. It depends on how you understand it. But it depends. There are Islamic banks who are happy to give you a mortgage based on what we call equity share. So you can get the mortgage, and then if they gave you a 75% LTV, what it means is that you own just the 25% and the bank owns the 75%. So during the time of the mortgage, you are going to be buying back the 75% from the bank bit by bit until you buy back everything. So yes, there are Islamic banks that you could look up to and then get the Islamic option or ethical option of the mortgage, is that if that is your belief. However, some people believe that getting a mortgage with the bank is on the mutual ground. So they believe that if you say something is riba, it's when I come to you, like I come to Yems and I say, Dr. Yems, I need a loan to feed my family. And then you tell me at the end of the day, I need to take some, interest out of the loan I've given you to feed your family. That is terrible, because that is very, very wrong, unethical, because this money, I'm only coming to you because I am in need. And if you're going to get interest off me, that is bad. However, if I came to you that, Dr. Yems, give me £1 million, let's do business. And then the profit that comes out of the business, we share it equally, or we share it as a percentage of whatever percentage we agree on. Then some people believe that that is fine, it's ethical, because at the end of the day, we are having a mutual benefit. So similarly, some people believe that with the mortgage, it's a mutual benefit, because if I was going to be paying a rent of £800 a month, and then at the end of 25 years, I'm still paying a rent of £800 or even more because of inflation. So now the rent is higher. However, if I got a mortgage and I'm paying a mortgage payment of, say, much less, even 600 or even 400, and at the end of the 25 years, I own the house, how is that not mutual benefit? You understand? So different perspective, different understanding. However, regardless of your perspective, there is an opportunity for you, because there are Islamic banks that would do it the way Islam permits. And the way Islam permits is you own whatever ownership you've paid for. The rest that you don't, you've not paid for, you don't own it. However, you can buy it back. So that's how the Islamic banks works. But some people will not even agree to the way Islamic banks work either. They will just gather their money, get the full money, and go buy cash, which is perfect as well. So we're all individuals. Whatever works for you, go for it.
Awesome. I love that you're clearing the air about this, because we had someone called the Money Wise Doctor who came on here to talk about financial insight, but he kept on saying, I'm not a Muslim and I'm not an expert in Islam banking, so I can't talk about this. Well, I'm so glad that this is coming from a Muslim, and she's giving us, you know, different perspective of, I'm sure, what people have explored. I know you've touched on a bit, but what are the major challenges that you face as an immigrant in the process of home ownership?
The major challenge would be the deposit. You need to have a very big deposit, which is quite challenging, because if somebody who is a citizen or having indefinite is given 5%, you need to be having currently, so it depends on the lender as well, but currently I think most lenders will require at least 15%. Some would even require 25%, depending on your situation. So the fact that you need to have a big chunk of the money is quite a challenge, because that means it limits the type of property you can buy. Yeah, because if you have, let's say there's a property for 200,000, and if you have to give just 5% versus if you have to give 25% or 15%, you see that, yeah? So that deposit part is a very big challenge.
Yeah.
So some people just wait and keep paying rent until they are due, until they have indefinite leave or something. But that would not be wise, because at that time that you are paying the rent, anyway, you are paying somebody's mortgage. But of course, we are all individuals. We've all got our choices, and whatever choice we make for ourselves is the best for us. So go with your guts.
Do you want to tell us about your entrepreneurship side hustle opportunities that one can explore as an immigrant in the UK?
There are several of them, actually. So it depends on what your interests are. There are several of them. So it depends on your interests. Personally, I'm into property investment, because that's where my interest is, even before I got to UK. But of course, there are other things like Amazon, drop shipping, all the what do you call it? You advertise for some other companies. Yeah, so it depends on what you want to do. But personally, I'm into property investment. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. So yeah, so if you're an immigrant, there are so many things you can do before you become a citizen. You know, there are lots of opportunities to, you know, have a side hustle like Dr. Sirina. So don't just read book. Don't come to UK and just
yeah, you
and only read. Sorry, what did you say?
The beauty is that reading the book will give you your normal day-to-day income and expenditure. Is like hand to mouth thingy. But if you really want to make money, then yeah, it depends on your motivation, basically. If you want to just have enough to eat, enough to drink, enough to sleep, then of course, only reading book is fine. But if you if you want to make some big cash, then you have to go through the entrepreneurship route, or at best combine both. For instance, personally, there's no way I'm gonna say I'm quitting my job totally to be doing my property investment, because I have a strong fulfillment for my job as a medical educator. So it depends on your job, it depends on what is offering you, it depends on what your motivation is. So you can combine both, or you do one or the other.
As long as you're not doing anything illegal. How do you balance all of this as a mother, as a lecturer? How do you balance your professional and personal life? Even me, I want to hear this because I need to learn.
You're quite interesting. Right. So, to be honest, I must say a big thumbs up to my husband. He's super supportive when it comes to that. And personally, too, I've trained my kids to be independent. My little boy started making his own toast as at the age of 3, of course, under my supervision. So I made sure all my kids are very, very independent, so that the little things, I don't have to be the one to do it for them, even though even though I will be able to do it, but I don't have to be the one to do it for them. In my absence, they can do a lot of things for themselves. So when it comes to the home front, like making sure the kids tidy up after themselves, just share the chores equally for them. Everybody kind of do bits and pieces, so that at least there's much less to do in terms of the home front. And then, of course, we have, I don't joke with my calendar. If I have a task and the task is not in my calendar, I'm not doing it.
Wow, I love that.
So
that's discipline there.
Even cooking is in my calendar. You have to be in my calendar to be done. I don't just get up. And because otherwise you feel so much overwhelmed. There's always so much to do. So I put things in my calendar, make sure I've got a calendar for the day, and I don't joke with my leisure time as well. So even with my stressful time, I still have my leisure period. So wow. I make sure everything is planned. There might be 1 or 2 impromptus, but majority of my life is kind of planned, so that at least at every point in time, I know what I'm doing. I remember a friend who is a mentor is the one who introduced me to that pattern, and it was quite interesting. I think that was during my PhD. Once you called to ask if I'm ready for lunch, I said, lunch? Are we going for lunch with you? I said, yes. I said, it's not in my calendar. And he said, really? Going to lunch is not in your calendar? So basically, I try to plan everything. If you plan it and make sure you fit in, we have 24 hours in a day. So you cannot be planning for 48 hours stuff and still expect not to be overwhelmed. Plan everything and make sure everybody does as much as they can do. For instance, if washing the dishes is not in my to-do list, you eat, you wash your plate. If you make a mess, you clean up after yourself. So at least then there is much less that you have to do. So make sure everybody is doing some bits and pieces. Yeah.
Plan your life, basically.
Plan it, basically. If you plan and you miss it, let's say you planned that you wanted to wake up at 6 and you ended up waking up at 6:30. That's fine, but that means everything is pushed back a little bit, and maybe your break time will sort it out. But then if you don't plan, you basically feel overwhelmed all the time. Don't forget, here there's so much to do, and it looks like the hours here is much less
not
than
enough
in Ghana. It's not the 24 hours. I don't know where they keep the rest of the hours, really. You wake up, and by the time you realize it's already evening when you've done nothing. So if you don't plan, you're just going to be like that forever.
Finally, I just want to ask you, what advice do you have for immigrants in the UK, those that are aspiring to maybe get slum budget scholarships, those that are aspiring to have a career in the academia, those that are aspiring to be home owners, aspiring mothers, everything. So
yeah,
what advice do you have?
For those who are aspiring to be home owners, have a clean credit record and make sure you've got your deposit. It depends on what stage you are. So make sure you've got your big deposits available. Okay, those aspiring to have scholarship, of course, do your research and feel free to make use of the experiences of those who have been there before. Okay, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Learn from their experiences so they can guide you as to how to make a good application. And those who are aspiring to be in academia, again, you can utilize the don't be afraid to apply. Don't say because you don't have UK experience you won't get it. No, wherever your experience is invaluable. So just feel free, go to the individual university website or jobs.co.ac or even Indeed, and put in your job search and also put in your application. If you've got a mentor to support you through your application, that would be great. And don't be afraid to fail. Whatever you're aspiring to do, don't be afraid to fail, okay? Try 1,000 times, fail 1,000 times, and try 1,000 times again and again and again. Don't ever be afraid to fail, because there's no success without failure. Failure is only an opportunity for you to do it again, but this time with more experience. So if you fail, you learn from that experience and do it again. And where you realize that whenever you do it again, you're going to get better at it and better and better and better. So keep going. Just keep going. Don't be afraid to fail, and you can make it. Okay.
Wow, love it. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail 1,000 times, do it 1,000 times. Every failure is an opportunity for you to learn again. What a closing remark. I love it, love it, love it, love it. There's been so many insightful nuggets in this interview. Her last words just says it all. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Failure is your next level up. And that's why I always say no limits, because, you know, you can't be limited. So you have to do it again. If you limit yourself, then you think, oh, no, I'm done with this. So, yeah, no limits indeed. Don't be afraid to fail. Thank you so much, Doc. I am so grateful. We are so grateful. And, yeah, we have to bring you back here to tell us, you know, this is your home investment journey. Even me, I want to learn so that I can have a side hustle. Thank you so much. Like this video, share it with your friends, comment, let us know where you are watching this from in the comment section. Thank you so much. God bless you. No limit. See you next time.